I wasted the first half of this year because of 3 major points, and this last one took me 6 months to realize. So you have to realize that your goals are most likely done by yourself and you alone. That means nobody's there to remind you, to hold you accountable for your goals. You have to be accountable for yourself and respect the promises you make to yourself, or else you will never be able to follow through with them. All this means is whatever promise you make to yourself, you keep it and you never break it, no matter how small that promise is. This is what it means to respect yourself. And it's so valuable because you don't need another person to tell you what to do, what you can't do. It's self-accountability. The second point is you don't need the perfect first prototype. You don't need the first video to be perfect or the perfect first rough draft, because when you're starting out, nothing you make will be perfect. The important thing is to just make something and keep making it until it gets good. Your first YouTube video will be ass. The first time writing a novel is going to be really bad. But if you never seen or make it, how will you know what to improve about it? Your first video will be bad. Your first anything will suck ass. But the fact that you published it, or the fact that you even tried and finished it, means you're already ahead of the people who didn't even have the courage to start. And there are even more people who didn't have the courage to post something they didn't deem perfect. Now, ultimately, the goal for this video is to teach you the 3 biggest mistakes I made this past year. And what I realized is that there's no shame in wasting time. This is the biggest point. I feel as if I finally understood that one Vagabond quote, the one that went, "You're not bound to certain rules and yet free to do whatever you like." I always thought that contradicted itself. But really what it means is that you don't owe the past anything. The past isn't a debt to be paid back. Don't work out of the shame of not working, because just because you wasted the first half of the year does not mean you have to work twice as hard for the next half. You're free to do whatever you want with your time. The past, present, future, they're all different people. You don't have to redeem your past self because, yeah, there are things outside of your control. You have regrets, but at the end of the day, you're free to do whatever you want with the time you have now, with the time you have in the present. So even though I have wasted this past year, I will not work twice as hard for this next half of the year out of shame, because first of all, I don't owe the past anything, but second of all, that will ruin my future. There's this trap that so many people get into, and it's overworking themselves out of shame and then burning out because of that overwork, and then they have to take another break, and then they overwork again because they feel ashamed of that break. If you always feel indebted to your past self, you will never be able to afford your future self.